Hey, if you have your Bibles, I want you to open to the Song of Solomon, chapter 3. And we have finally come to the wedding between the Shulamite woman and King Solomon. Verse 1, this is her dream. On my bed by night, I sought him whom my soul loveth. 4 times she's going to use that phrase, my soul loves. I sought him, but found him not. I will rise now and go about the city, in the streets and in the squares. I will seek him whom my soul loves. I sought him and found him not. The watchmen found me as they went about the city. Have you seen the one my soul loves? And of course, we don't have the beautiful music. We have no idea how this would have sounded. Scarcely had I passed them when I found him whom my soul loves. I held him and would not let him go until I had brought him into my mother's house, into the chamber of her who conceived me. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles and the does of the field, do not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. This is so raging. This is so beautiful. She's saying, save this for the right time. And now Solomon arrives at the wedding, verse 6. What is that coming from the wilderness like columns of smoke, perfume with myrrh and frankincense, with all the fragrant powers of a merchant? Behold, it's the litter of Solomon. Around it are 60 men, some of the mighty men of Israel, all wearing swords and experts in war, each with his sword at his thigh against her by night. King Solomon has made himself a carriage. From the wood of Lebanon, he made it with posts of silver, the back of gold, seed of purple. Guys, this is why weddings are expensive. Solomon started all this. He made its post of silver, its back of gold, its seed of purple, its interior inlaid with love by the daughters of Jerusalem. Go out, O daughters of Zion, and look upon King Solomon with the crown which his mother crowned him. He's already the king, 20 years old or older. On the day of his wedding, on the day of the gladness of his heart. If I had to pick a clever title for today, this is Sex in the City, guys. This is an ambitious woman, and we are in Jerusalem, but this is all the right way. This is the way it was always meant to be. This is true desire, true love, as God designed it. Chapter 3, the wedding. Chapter 4, we're going to get into the consummation. You read all this and you say, why is this in the Bible? To which my answer is, why wouldn't it be in the Bible? You know, God is the creator of this. There's something beautiful and wonderful about it. Now, we make a mistake here, right? Because, you know, at least when I marry young couples, they want to have the perfect wedding day, right? And sometimes the perfect wedding day isn't what you need. It doesn't set you up for success. So I remember a story I read one time about a gentleman who got married at 40 years old, and he was wealthy, and it was his first marriage, and he thought, you know, I want to get married in the Caribbean. So he flew to the Caribbean. He found this beautiful chapel by the sea, and they were going to have the reception on a 100-foot yacht, super yacht. And he gets on the yacht, and there's the chef and the captain. He said, look, guys, I don't want to spare any expense. When my guests come on the ship, we're going to celebrate. The wine's going to be flowing, champagne popping, spare no expense. And he told the chef, look, all we're going to eat for 4 hours is nothing but prawns. Anybody know what prawns are? Real expensive long shrimp, right? He goes, I want mounds and mounds of prawns. Wedding day comes, it's 80 degrees, there's not a cloud in the sky. They go to that chapel by the sea. It's wonderful, it's glorious. People are throwing rice. They get on the ship, the wine's flowing, the champagne's popping. The groom's feeling pretty good about himself. So he goes to the groomsmen. He said, guys, come into the galley. I want to show you what we're going to feast on for the next 4 hours. And he walks into the galley, and there it is, all the chafing, the silver chafing dishes, and he pulls it back and he says, look at this. And instead of mounds and mounds of prawns, there were prunes, mounds and mounds of prunes. The chef spoke broken English, and he made a mistake. Prawns, and there were prunes. Now, 5 years later, as they were looking at wedding pictures, they laughed and joked how that got their marriage off to a running start. And it was such a moving, time on the ship, and probably set them up for what marriage would really be like. Here's the mistake we make, guys. Marriage is two people live separately and apart, two imperfect people who will be made one flesh. And I say this at weddings, and the parents always stand back like they're mad at me. I'm saying we're taking two imperfect lives raised by two imperfect people, parents, and we're putting all this together and say, let's live happily ever after. And it doesn't go that way. And yet we have here this wonderful standard. And, it's June, it's wedding season. And if you talk to people, if you go, there's got to be 10,000 weddings in June in this country. And if you go to people, I'll bet you very few people could answer, why do we do this? Why do we keep doing this? As much as it fails, we get statistics about 50%, we keep doing this, and most people don't even know why we're doing it. And most people don't know, if you study world religions, anthropology, it all goes back to here, Genesis. There is no other place. It's Genesis where God said, therefore a man will leave his father and mother, be joined to his wife, they become one flesh. And we see the ceremony here. God, as I like to say, is the genius behind marriage. He's the creator, inventor of it. Therefore, he has the rules. And when we play by his rules, things go well with us. Now, chapter 3 starts with a dream. The Shulamite woman is dreaming about her future husband, her lover, King Solomon. And don't you love this idea that God gave us the faculties to fantasize? Now, I know it's run amok in our culture, right? We fantasize with about people we shouldn't be with, or people use it for pornography, but don't misunderstand the intention. God gave us faculties for us to desire the people that we long for. And notice what she says here. Solomon is gone. She says, the one whom my soul loveth. I love that 4 times. And we already know there's physical attraction, right? There's enough of that in Song of Solomon. They must have mutual interest, even though she's like a farm girl and he's a king. But what they really do have is a relationship on what we might call a soulish level. The soul is who you really are. When Jesus was asked, what's the greatest commandment? He said, love God with all your heart, your strength, your soul, and your mind. He interconnects all them. The nefesh in Hebrew is the real you. It's eternal. It's the part of you where you get personality and thought. It makes you distinct from everyone else. We were at the zoo one time. And by the way, if I repeat myself, that's what happens at this age. My kids always correct me. But we were at the zoo one time in Fort Worth, and we're looking at orangutans. And I was throwing some Cheez-Its. It was probably illegal. And the orangutan would run over and eat it. And my daughter's like, Dad, I know you teach on evolution a lot, but man, they look a lot like us. And this sign here says 99% of their DNA is the same. And I said, yeah, but the 1% difference is why we're going to eat steak tonight, and he's locked in this zoo. And Shakespeare, and we could go on and on. So the idea here is we have a soul. This is the God-breathed part of us. It's what makes us unique. It's what makes you unique from everyone who's ever lived. Jesus said, what would it profit a man if he gained the whole world and lost his soul? Again, the soul's eternal. It's you. It's the part of you that relates to God, and she knows him on a soulish level. And marriage is the one place. Now, you can have this kind of intimacy with another human being. David and Jonathan had this kind of relationship. But only within a marriage can you go to a level of knowing, a deep level of this mystery of one flesh. So she's dreaming about her man. And think about the capacity God gave us, right? Smells, touch, taste, right? Like my wife's closet has her smell. One person has had that experience, right? Look, we all got a smell, right? Yeah, there's taste, there's touch. There's things God gave us to remind us of relationships. Billy Graham talks about the longing of his traveling, sometimes upwards of 7 months. When he would travel worldwide before jet travel, you have to go on ships. And he would fantasize about Ruth, and she would fantasize about him, right? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Nothing drives me more crazy. It's in the top 5 pet peeves, this is one. When two people start to date, they fall off the map. And then when they get married, they really fall off the map. I'm like, what's going on? Like you can't play basketball with the guys or car. You can't do anything now. The worst thing I think is two people just myopically walking and looking at one another. I shared last week, there's a time to embrace, there's a time what? To refrain from embracing. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Shem and Christine, Pastor Shem, he and his wife had a long-distance dating relationship from Kenya to the United States. Here's one of my favorites. It's fictional. Tom Hanks in Castaway when he's on the island. And on the island, right, you know what gets him through? He's got that little keepsake of Kelly, and he looks at it every day. In fact, when he gets off the island, he tells her, "You kept me alive for 5 years." Little nuance to that movie. When it begins, the camera pans down his fireplace on Christmas Day, and there's a plaque where he received an award at the yacht club. So a lot of plausibility of him getting off that island, but that's free information. This is the wedding ceremony. It's a beautiful thing. Now, where is Solomon? Well, you probably are more familiar with Jesus' words in John 14 than anything of an Eastern religion. In John 14, the Last Supper, the Last Seder, whatever you want to call it, Jesus looked at his guys. He says, "I'm going to go away." He said, "But don't let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe in me. If I go away, I'm going to prepare a place for you that where I am, you may also be with me." Now, why did Jesus use that? Because the wedding was something they were familiar with. The groom would go away, he'd prepare a place for the bride, that's where they were going to live. He would come back, there would be 7 days of feasting. They would sing these songs of Solomon. And so Jesus used that imagery, and this is why the woman's longing. Solomon's going away, she's preparing a place. Now, it took Solomon 14 years to build his palace, but I don't think that's done yet. But he's still preparing a place where they would live. And it's their wedding day. Now, young people ask me, "Pastor Bob, when does a marriage begin?" And here's the problem in our culture. There's no rules. It's like make it up as you go. Do what's right in your own eyes. Like think about life, the art of living well, right? We're talking about living in wisdom. So could you imagine trying to live that way with your finances, some willy-nilly thing you make up along the way, or your health or anything like that? No, we run around and we eat sourdough bread and salmon till we have gills and, everything that's healthy for us, and we do all this stuff. And then when it comes to relationships, we're like, "Oh, yeah, just figure it out. Do anything you want. No rules." And what we're finding is that there are rules, that God's the inventor of marriage, that we have these wisdom books that tell us what to do when the rules don't fit even. Wisdom is the ability to make the right choices and decisions at the right time. I want to read you a sprinkling of Proverbs 8. It's one of my favorite chapters in the Bible because you can find Jesus in it. Does not wisdom call? Yes. Does not understanding raise her voice? Yes. On the heights beside the way, at the crossroads, she takes her stand. Beside the gates in front of the town, at the entrance of the portal, she cries aloud, "To you, O men, I call, and my cry is to the children of men. O simple ones, learn prudence. Fools, learn sense. Hear, for I will speak noble things, and from my lips will come what is right, for my mouth will utter truth. Wickedness and abomination is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are righteous. There is nothing twisted or crooked in them. They are all straight to him who understands, and right to those who find knowledge. Take my instruction instead of silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold." Why? "For wisdom is better than jewels, and all that you may desire may not compare with her." And whether that's Lady Wisdom or Jesus, you figure it out, but we have like worship songs with some of that phrasing. Chapter ends, "Sons, listen to me. Blessed are those who keep my ways. Hear instruction and be wise, and do not neglect it. Blessed is the one who listens to me, watching daily at my gates, waiting beside my doors. For whoever finds me," wisdom, you could plug Jesus in, "finds life and obtains favor from the Lord. But he who fails to find me injures himself, and all who hate me love death." And so God says, look, here's the way I designed it. And if you live this way, you'll flourish. Yes, there'll still be heartaches and hardship, but by and large, this is the way I designed it. One of the things we learned is don't arouse or awaken love till it's time, right? That's a big mistake. I want to give you 3 components of a marriage. And there's probably more, there could be less, but I want to give you 3. Biblically, number 1, it's a man and a woman. Now, I have to say that because of the time we live in, right? It's obvious. God made them male and female. A man will leave his father and mother, be joined to his wife. They become one flesh. Now, is that hate speech? Am I against people that think otherwise? No. You can do anything you want. Just don't call it marriage, because if you call it marriage, you're hearkening back to something biblical. Why would you want to do that? Call it a civil union. Call it whatever you want. By the way, there's no discrimination here. In a civil union, I looked this up, legality, you can get all the same benefits of a married heterosexual couple. But God sets this up that it's a man and a woman. Number 2, vows. When does a marriage begin? When vows are exchanged. Well, wait a second, Pastor Bob, I don't need a piece of paper to tell me I love my wife. Yeah, but I'll tell you what, when I go to the dentist and I look on the wall and it says Temple University, I feel a little better, right? And if a marriage certificate doesn't matter, neither does your Harvard or Princeton degree or law degree. Of course it matters. Marriage begins with a vow. I married a couple last week, Saturday. And when we talked about vows, they said, oh, we're doing our own vows. I'm like, great. I'll listen to them. And if they don't have any permanence to them, then we'll repeat my vows. So we came to the wedding day. I said, you guys are going to read your vows, right? Oh, no, we're just going to repeat your vows. Vows have permanence. Why? Because you don't know what a day will bring. You have no idea what will happen the day you walk out those doors. James Dobson, I've kept this on my desk for 30 years, talks about his friends Keith and Mary. They've been married for 41 years. He said shortly after they were married, Mary was in a car accident and became a quadriplegic. Keith, in all these years, has bathed her, combed her hair, took her to and fro, and never considered divorcing her. He could have found a healthier and younger wife, but never considered it, all because he shared these vows for richer or poorer, in sickness and health, for better or worse, till death do us part. So to show you that I'm not lazy during the week, I read a whole book just on vows. Whole book, outside of everything else I had to read and do, and run a basketball camp, etc. The Modern Genius of an Ancient Rite. By the way, it's not a Christian book. Oprah recommends it, the New York Times. I like to look for these resources. In the West, marrying now is so thoroughly identified with ceremonial vow-taking that taking vows is a synonym for getting married. It's a surprise to realize that this custom is actually a historical and anthropological oddity. Most of the world, for most of history, married without vows. Edward Westmark's 3-volume History of Human Marriage reports no wedding vows outside the West. Traditional weddings among native people of Asia, Africa, Australia, and the Americas have had no vow-taking. Vows, solemn promises, are important in many societies and were important in the ancient world, but they weren't part of weddings. In ancient Rome, the only promise related to marriage were spelled out in a contract between the father, bride, and the groom, or his father laid out mostly financial terms, including questions of dowry, support, and penalties for misbehavior. The bride was not party to the contract, and she and the groom made no vows to each other. The wedding celebrations of Islam, Hinduism, Shintoism, and the Eastern Orthodox Church are lovely, but traditionally include no vows, and Buddhism prescribes no wedding ceremony. Now, even in the Old Testament, and we might call the Judeo-Christian world, marriage was pretty much civil. It was more civil than religious. It was civil in the idea, and this is point number 3, that we did it publicly. But to show you that the vows were meaningful, I want to point you to 2 places. You could look at Malachi. Let's go to Proverbs. Where am I? Proverbs 2:17, talking about the immoral woman who forsakes the companion of her youth and forgets the covenant of her God. I like to say that marriage is a covenant, a contract of companionship. Malachi 2:14, yet you say, for what reason? Because the Lord has been witness between you and the wife of your youth, with whom you have dealt treacherously, yet she is your companion, and she's your wife by covenant. It was a covenant of companionship. The piece of paper is a contract that we tell all of society. Again, that third part, all of society, that, hey, from now on, we have made these vows to one another. Think of baptism, right? Wednesday night, another beautiful night on the lawn, about 17 baptisms. The people in the baptismal pool are looking out and publicly saying, with all boldness, I'm a follower of Jesus now. Just want everybody to know. You know what a couple's saying at a wedding? You're all off limits. From this day forward, I know there's going to be more beautiful people, more talented people, but everybody's off limits because I'm vowing my life to this person. The captain and Tennille had a song, love will keep us together. Think of me, babe, whenever some sweet talking girl comes along. No, love won't keep you together when some sweet talking girl comes along. A vow will keep you together. And by the way, God made a vow with humanity. He made a vow, a covenant with Abraham. Now, it was messier then, and thank God we don't do these at weddings today. He took an animal, he cut it in half. There was blood everywhere. And usually you would cut the covenant. You would say, this is the stipulation of the covenant. You would walk through the animal, except God put Abraham to sleep, and God made it unilateral. It was based on God's faithfulness. Then he made a covenant with Isaac and Jacob, and then Moses and Joshua, and finally David and even Solomon. The beautiful thing is Jesus comes along at the Last Supper, and he takes the cup, and he said, now this is the new covenant. In the shedding of my blood, it'll be for the remission of sins. As often as you do this, remember, every time we take communion, Lord, we are under grace. Lord, this is no longer a blessing cursing covenant. We are under grace. Fulfilling the words of Jeremiah 31, and I will make a new covenant, and I will put my words in their heart and on their mind, and they will be my people, and I will be their God. And this was meant to be done as a public gathering in front of people before God. And at the end of the day, we call this holy matrimony. This mystery where God takes two people and makes them one flesh. And by the way, makes you holy. Marriage will make you holy. It really will, for better or worse. So in the New Testament, the supreme teaching on marriage is Ephesians 5. I think most of you know it well. Verse 21 and on, it says, wives, submit to your husbands. Husbands, love your wives like the church. Goes through the whole thing. And at the end, Paul quotes Genesis 2:18. Man will leave his father and mother. He says, I show you a profound mystery. This is Christ in the church. Now, there's great teaching there, but we goof up by not going up one verse. Verse 21, before we get into the whole S word thing, submission, start arguing, is often overlooked, where it says, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. It's not talking about marriage, it's talking about life. You and I as believers are to submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. That's spirit-filled living. So what's a spirit-filled marriage? A spirit-filled marriage is one where the Holy Spirit humbles me so I can serve another. The Holy Spirit humbles me so I can serve another. This is why my pastor used to say it takes more Holy Spirit to wash the dishes than to speak in tongues. We don't like being humbled. We certainly don't like serving. A loss of pride and increase in serving is the glue. If I get up in the morning and my wife gets up in the morning and our goal is to serve one another, we're going to have a great day. This is why Ecclesiastes says two are better than one. If one falls, the other picks him up. Here's another fallacy about marriage. You know, people talk about, I know what the marriage is. It's a 50-50. Like, I'll get to the 50-yard line and you take the ball home. Or I changed the diaper last time, now you change the diaper. Or I cut the lawn, now you do the wash. It's the 50-50, right? No, it's the 100-100. Because we may go through seasons where our spouse doesn't want to do any of those things or can't do any of those things. Seasons of depression or illness. One's down, another picks him up. A threefold cord can never be broken. Tim Keller, in a meaning for marriage, said you should stop making excuses for your selfishness. You should bring it into the light, root it out as it is revealed to you, and you should do it regardless of what your spouse is doing. If two spouses each say, I'm going to treat my self-centeredness as the main problem in this marriage, you have the prospect of what Tim calls a truly great marriage. Jesus was spirit-filled. Philippians says he humbled himself to the point of the cross and he washed the disciples' feet. That's what we're called to do. Now, you guys ready for the consummation? Reminder, I am reading out of the Bible. If you don't have one, I'm not reading this book. I'm reading in the Bible. Behold, Solomon says, you are beautiful, my love. You are beautiful. He keeps telling her that. Your eyes are doves behind your veil. Your hair is like a flock of goats leaping down the slopes of Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of shorn ewes that have come up from the washing, all of which bear twins, and not one of them has lost its young. Your lips are like a scarlet thread, and your mouth is lovely. Your cheeks are halves of a pomegranate. Behind your veil, your neck is like the Tower of David, built in rows of stone. On it hang 1,000 shields, all of them warriors. Your two breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle, that graze among the lilies until the day breath and the shadows flee. I will go to the mountain of myrrh and the hill of frankincense. You are altogether beautiful, my love. There's no flaw in you. It's almost like a return to Eden. Come with me from Lebanon, my bride. Come with me from Lebanon. Depart from the peak of Amana, from the peak of Senir and Hermon, from the dens of lions, from the mountains of leopards. You have captivated my heart, my sister, my bride. You have captivated my heart with one glance of your eyes, with one jewel of your necklace. How beautiful is your love, my sister, my bride. How much better is your love than wine. And most translations have love making in those verses. And the fragrance of your oils than spice. Your lips drip nectar, my bride. Honey and milk are under your tongue. The fragrance of your garments is like the fragrance of Lebanon. Now, verse 12 is a metaphor. Use your imagination. A garden is locked, my sister, my bride. She's a virgin. Sexually speaking of the garden metaphor. A spring locked, a fountain sealed. She's waited. Your shoots are an orchard of pomegranates with all choicest fruits. Henna with nard, nard with saffron, calamus with cinnamon, with trees of frankincense, myrrh and aloes with choice spices. A garden fountain, a well of living water, and flowing streams from Lebanon. Awake, O north, and rejoice, O south wind. Blow upon my garden, let its spices flow. Let my beloved come to his garden and eat its choicest fruits. And he says, I have come to the garden, my sister, my bride. I gathered my myrrh with spice. I ate my honeycomb with honey, and I drank my wine with my will. Wow. Notice, everything about this is wonderful. Everything about this is the way God designed it. They have nothing to compare this to. They've never seen Fatal Attraction. They've never seen movies or people making out. They don't know anything of that. They don't have comparisons with other people. There's no pornography. It's young love. It's intimacy. You know, Solomon would write, there are 6 things that are amazing, 7 too wonderful for me. Like a badger in a rock, or a ship in the sea, or an eagle in the sky. One of them is a man with a woman. A relationship no one was ever meant to see. Special between 2 people. Now, last week I shared, thank God we made it this far, that we've all messed up in this area. We've all got it wrong. We've all sinned in some way or some fashion. And the good news is there's grace. There's a second chance. One of the mistakes we don't want to do is become cynical. I don't know why Pastor Bob was talking about marriage. I haven't been married for 40 years. How can we not extol something so glorious what God intended? Like, in other words, if I messed up royally, why not still say, God, yay, God, for this beautiful thing? Yeah. You don't want to become cynical. You want to believe in the God of a second chance. So one of the great marriages that you can read about of those in ministry is John Newton. You all know John Newton? He wrote Amazing Grace, right? So Amazing Grace doesn't mean a lot to you because you hear it so much. But if you know John Newton's backstory, it would mean a lot to you. John Newton was a slave trader. So he would take ships to Africa and he would bring slaves back. You may not know this. While he was there, he was in brothels every night. And then he gets radically saved on a ship and is set ablaze by God's grace. And he writes Amazing Grace. And now you know why he writes this phrase, he saved a wretch like me. Can you imagine trying to serve Jesus with that past? Every day the devil hounding you. God saved a wretch like me. That's what makes it so amazing. And then by every account, if you read his biographers, he had one of the greatest marriages anyone had ever seen. The marriage that he had between him and his wife was glorious. Here's what I'm trying to say. God is the God of a second chance. If you've messed up, there's grace. We've all sinned and fall short of the glory of God. And guess what? Guess who else messed up? Solomon. The guy writing this, who's having intimacy with the Shulamite woman, will go on to have 700 women plus concubines. Now, I don't think Solomon was a sex addict. Back in that day, marriages were for political alliances. He only had one son. There's not a lot of little Solomons running around. So much of this is political, although he writes in Ecclesiastes, sexual exploits never made him happy. I don't even know how the guy had time for this, by the way. As busy as I am, I don't know how you can have 700 wives, but we'll leave that for another day. What I'm trying to say is, what God has designed is still beautiful. It's still wonderful. Now, there's one last thing I got to say. Probably the greatest wedding situation outside of this is in Genesis 29. I'm not going to read any of it. I'll just tell you how it goes. Bible students know a lot about it. So Jacob falls head over heels for this woman named Rachel. She's beautiful and gorgeous. And he goes to Laban, her father, and says, I want to marry your daughter. And Laban says, great, you're going to work for me for 7 years. And so Jacob works for Laban for 7 years. And I love this verse where it says, and the 7 years seemed to him like one day. That's head over heels, man. That's head over heels. Now, the wedding day comes and the consummation night, Laban pulls the okey doke on Jacob, who, by the way, Jacob was a deceiver. Now he meets the ultimate deceiver. He gets his comeuppance. And Laban substitutes his oldest daughter, Leah. Now, I have a daughter, Leah. Her name means weak in the eyes. So she's either has a lazy eye or she's homely. And I like to believe she's homely, okay? And Laban's thinking, what am I going to do? My oldest daughter's homely. How am I going to get rid of her? I know what I'll do. I'll slide her in. Jacob has sex with her. She gets pregnant. Jacob realizes in the morning he's been duped. And he said, Laban, you duped me. And Laban said, yeah, but I'll make it up to you. Work another 7 years, and I'll give you Rachel. And he works another 7. Who would do it? And he finally gets Rachel. There is a commentator who should get a gold medal on this story, because he tells us this is pretty much how life works on this side of heaven. That every desire you and I have, every desire for intimacy, for relationships, for money or career, almost all of our desires for happiness and how we're going to make it in this life, we're all looking for Rachel. But this commentator said most of the time it's Leah in the morning. And it's one of the greatest things I've ever heard, and it's how I live my life. Look, I believe in slices of eternity. I believe in happiness highs, and I believe in mountaintop experiences. I mean, there's times when I'm at my house and I'm looking at everybody and I'm like, wow, for these 30 seconds, everything's aligned. But this is Rachel, and it's going to be Leah in the morning. Because Jesus said the day has enough trouble for itself. And C.S. Lewis nailed it in Mere Christianity, and everybody that's ever preached has stolen everything from Mere Christianity. And I'm going to read you the one quote they steal from. What you really need to do is read all of chapter 10, which is about hope. Where Lewis says, if I find myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world. If none of my earthly pleasures satisfy it, that does not prove that the universe is a fraud. Probably earthly pleasure were never meant to satisfy it, but only to arouse it, to suggest the real thing, and I would add, to point us to the ultimate reality. Because in this life, all that we desire is Rachel, but it's always going to be Leah in the morning. Solomon, for all of his exploits, and they are many, he writes these books of the Bible, he writes 3,000 Proverbs and 1,000 Psalms. He's the most wise man that ever lived. There's almost no reckoning of him in the New Testament. He doesn't make it in the Hebrews 11. And the one time Jesus talks about him, it's like a backhand compliment. When you go to Israel, almost nothing's named after him. It's all named after David. The only time Jesus mentions him, he said, the Queen of the South will rise at the judgment with this generation and condemn it, for she came from the ends of the earth to listen to Solomon's wisdom, and yet a greater than Solomon is here. Jesus was wiser than Solomon, purer than Solomon, more obedient than Solomon, sacrificed a sacrifice Solomon could never sacrifice, and had more glory than Solomon. He's the greater than Solomon. Can I give everybody a piece of advice? Everybody you love and look up to will eventually let you down. Everyone. Parents will let you down as much as you love them. And by the way, there's an epidemic sweeping our country. I don't know if you noticed. We see it here. We hear about it. I talk to people about it. It's in the Wall Street Journal. You can read The Atlantic. Of children now cutting off their parents. It's like a trend. Your parents will let you down. Pastors, church leaders will let you down. Political leaders will let you down. Because we all have feet of clay like Adam. Your spouse will let you down. The Bible says Jesus will never let you down. The intimacy you're longing for is with the lover of your soul. See, there's bad days in golf, bad days in fishing, bad days at work, bad days in hunting, bad days in marriage, bad days in singleness. There's never a bad day with Jesus. He's always there. He'll never leave you or forsake you. He'll never lie to you. There's no shadow of turning. His yes is yes, his no is no. And Solomon got it wrong in Ecclesiastes when he said it was all vanity and chasing of the wind. He got it wrong in this regard. There is enjoyment under heaven, but it's all pointing to us to the ultimate relationship. So here's how we're going to end. And is Paul not? Paul, you're going to Paul, stand up. Paul, this is going to be your favorite day in Calvary Chapel. A friend of mine, Chris Dupree, wrote this book. He actually preached here and sang this song here, and we're going to sing it. Paul, you lead us.